Jeffrey Pullman. Welcome to the Deep Breath. This is day 2 of Gilotrif. Very short update for you. I just wanted to follow up on yesterday's video and indicate that so far, it is only about 11 o'clock in the morning, actually, 10 after 11 right now. So far, I am experiencing no adverse side effects. It's less than 24 hours since my first dose, but I did take the second dose. I'm trying to work it into a morning routine rather than an afternoon, so I moved it up just by a few hours and took it at 10:40 this morning as opposed to 2:40 yesterday or 2:30-ish, I forget. So about a 4-hour bump. And I feel fine. I'm hungry. Yesterday I had a large dinner and expected that I would potentially have some digestive issues afterwards, but nothing happened. It was the first day. The stuff hasn't accumulated in my system yet, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out in the next few days. I'm hoping that this will be an indicator of things to come, but there's no way to really project that at this point. I'm going to be going to see my oncologist in a couple of hours and touch base with him about what to expect and so forth over the next few days in terms of side effects, how long it takes for them to show up, et cetera, et cetera. But that said, I do have a very good appetite right now, and I'm looking forward to lunch. I have to wait another hour or so before I can eat. After taking this medication, you're supposed to be at least 2 hours between your previous meal and an hour before your next one, I think, or vice versa, one or the other, probably 2 hours on the front end, which is one of the reasons that I took my first dose when I did yesterday. I had to space it out between meals. I also have to space out I'm supposed to be spacing out the antibiotic, although I haven't been quite as good about that. I usually have been taking it fairly close to mealtime. Although I've been inconsistent, I'm going to try and be more consistent with that, as well as more consistent with the main drug that I'm taking now. So, those are good things thus far. Yesterday I was trying to take notes about any change in my physical sensations, any change in terms of how I was feeling all around, also emotionally. And what I was logging was actually interesting because for the last few weeks I've been very stiff. I've been feeling a lot of muscle weakness, a lot of soreness. Just doing this was kind of painful. And part of that I was writing off to maybe I had been sleeping funny. I had been on vacation for a week where I was sleeping on a bed that I wasn't familiar with, and that was kind of tweaking my back over time, so that when I got back here and I was back in a situation where I was used to sleeping, it initially felt so much better, but then the last few days, last week, I've been getting progressively stiffer and more sore. And of course, aside from spinning about that being cancer related, and is it the bones that are being affected? Is it the joints? What's the pain coming from? Is it spinal? Is it something pushing on a nerve? Anyway, yesterday I took this pill, this Gilotrif, and afatinib, and at first wasn't feeling anything different. Then I started to feel a little bit of a burning sensation behind my right eye, or in my right eye, dryness, and I thought maybe the drug's kind of getting in the system. Sometimes if I take a medication within a couple hours, and I think it was about an hour, not even half an hour, between when I took the pill at 2:30 and about 3 o'clock, I was feeling a little dryness and a slight burning sensation in my right eye. But by 4 o'clock, I was starting to really notice an elevated mood. I was feeling lighter and happier, and and my stiffness was going away. It felt almost like I had taken like an naproxen or maybe even a Vicodin or something, and I was feeling a lot less pain, and I found that my mobility was coming back. And although I've got muscle weakness still, because the last week my arms and especially and my legs and my back and everything hasn't been getting the kind of exercise that they need, um, largely due to the heat and the fact that we also had fires out here, so there was a reason to stay indoors. And being relatively sedentary then for a week doesn't help. Um, and so I've got to build my muscle mass back up. I've got to start really kind of getting the exercises going again. Um, but the air outside is clearing up a little bit. The temperature is starting to come down slightly. Today is much nicer. Again, my windows are open, and I'm enjoying that. And so the 4 p.m. elevated mood may have been associated with the drop in temperature, the air conditioner being on, um, and the day starting to get a little cooler, but highly unlikely because there wasn't really that much of a change there at that point. So by 6 o'clock last night, I was preparing a big dinner, made sloppy joes, which my daughter had requested, and so I had two of them, and I had some side things going on, and I was hungry. I ate a lot, and I felt really good. Um, 8 o'clock in the evening, I noticed that I was getting really sweaty. Was this because it was suddenly feeling very muggy in the house? Was the temperature starting to come up again? The temperature in the house had actually been dropping because the air conditioner was on. So I'm not quite sure what the sweatiness was associated with, but it felt like my body was heating up a little bit. That 2 hours after eating a big meal, that's entirely possible that was affecting the situation. Um, but the sweatiness felt very much like it did when I was on my chemo. And certain days in my chemo cycle, I would get really sweaty and I would feel like I was purging a lot out. My body would, especially like 3 or 4 days into the chemo cycle, I would feel a lot warmer. My body would be treating it like, almost felt like I was fighting an infection or something like that. But mildly. And the sweatiness was gone by 9 o'clock. So for only about an hour or so that I was feeling this sweatiness, and then boom, from 9 o'clock on, felt fine. Went to bed around 10:30, and my note here that I wrote says, "Still feeling great, very alert." Now that wasn't to say that I wasn't tired. I was getting sleepy, but the alertness is something that I've really been paying attention to, especially this morning too, because I woke up and I was feeling, wow, I feel alert, and I feel clear-headed. And this is very different from the feeling of chemo brain, feeling very different from that brain fog that had been kind of sapping my mental acuity for the last couple of years. And while I've had moments of really great lucidity, it hasn't felt quite like it has the last almost 24 hours or 20 hours or so. I'm not quite sure if this is something that is indicative of this drug, if this is just me noticing that I'm starting to come out of this fog that has been induced for the last months and months, the last number of months, last couple of years. I just feel more mentally awake and alert. And it's a really cool feeling because I had kind of gotten to the point where I thought, well, I'm back to, close to normal, and now suddenly I'm feeling like I've been kicked up a notch. Like I'm not quite sure what to make of it, except that I'm very happy, and I'm hoping it lasts. And maybe it's just some artificial kind of sensation because I'm paying attention to it. Maybe it's because I'm associating this with the new treatment and happened to have reason to make note of it because I was trying to assess how I was feeling. Maybe I've been feeling this way for a couple of days and just hadn't realized it because it came upon very slowly. But when I wake up this morning and at 6 o'clock and I use the restroom and everything's perfectly normal, I haven't got any changes yet, nothing negative going on, nothing that I have to treat. I'm feeling great. I have a decent appetite already. I have a relatively substantial breakfast. Still feeling a lot less stiff. So I'm waking up and I'm feeling better already physically. And my note here from this morning is very alert. And that's how I was feeling. Like I was noticing stuff. I was thinking things very clearly. I'm picking up a lot of information and feeling like I'm, again, in a better place mentally than I had been a couple months ago. Now, again, this isn't to say that I'm not still going to suffer some fatigue, but yesterday night, I didn't feel anywhere near as fatigued as I had previous nights. I've been having a real hard time staying awake until 10:30 at night. And yesterday, I didn't have a problem with it. Now, what normally happens is I sit down, I watch a little television, I kind of fall asleep for about half an hour to 40 minutes. Then I wake up, I have to do a bunch of things. I kind of get a second wind and I'm awake until midnight or 1. That's not ideal. I don't like kind of falling asleep early and then having to get up and do a few things and then go back to sleep again. And because that always kind of disrupts the flow of the night and puts me to bed later. I prefer to go to sleep around 11 o'clock, which is what I did last night. I went to sleep around 11. And that was because I didn't fall asleep earlier. So I slept from about 11 to 6. I did get up briefly around 2 o'clock to use the bathroom and went back to sleep again. But that's par for the course. I very rarely sleep through the night consistently. It does happen once in a while. I've gotten a few nights here and there where I'll sleep a straight 8 hours, and that's fabulous. But usually if I get 6, I'm overjoyed. And more often than not, I'm in the 5-hour range. But I had a great sleep last night. I didn't fall asleep early. I didn't need the nap in the afternoon. Even though after a heavy meal, about an hour after I eat, I usually feel like I need a nap, that was kind of mitigated and felt better. So all of this is really, really good, and I'm very, very happy with how this is starting off. I'm very hungry now. I'm looking forward to my lunch, which I'm going to eat in a short while. It is now it's 11:24, so within the next half hour, I'm going to make myself probably a large lunch and head off to see the doctor. But that's where I am right now. Feeling great. The pill may or may not be responsible for my elevated mood. It may or may not be responsible for the feeling of increased mental clarity. These are questions I hope to remember to ask when I see the doctor today. Otherwise, we'll see how they pan out over the coming weeks. That's it for now. Thanks for listening.